It cost me $250 to realize my neighborhood was being run by a domestic terrorist in floral print. And no, that's not an exaggeration. That's just what happens when boredom, power, and a laminated HOA badge collide. I was standing on my porch staring at the crime scene like a man, trying to remember where his life took a wrong turn. The evidence? One small cardboard box, the sad, innocent kind that shows up when you buy something online at 2 a.m. because you're trying to fill an emotional hole with free shipping. It was still sitting there, right on the welcome mat, Amazon smile smirking up at me like it knew something I didn't. And in my hand, printed on thick cream cardstock like a wedding invitation from hell, was a violation notice from the Oak Creek Estates Homeowners Association. Unsightliness. Debris accumulation. Fine, $250. Now here's the part that made my brain short-circuit. According to my doorbell cam, the delivery guy dropped that box at 1:14. The citation photo? Timestamped 1:20. 6 minutes. 6. It took less time for the HOA to declare war on me than it takes most people to microwave a Hot Pocket. That's when I laughed. Not a happy laugh, more like the kind villains do right before they build a laser. Because I'm a normal guy. I'm on my lawn. I wave at neighbors. I even pretend to care about hydrangeas. But getting fined for existing in a supply chain? That it's a nerve. So instead of bringing the box inside, I left it there like a tiny cardboard middle finger and marched 3 houses down. Everyone knew where Barbara lived. Barbara Higgins, HOA president, self-appointed guardian of suburban purity, rumored to have once filed a complaint against a cloud for being asymmetrical. Her house looked like it had been photoshopped into reality. The grass had commitment issues with growing too tall. The flowers stood at attention like they feared punishment. She was in the yard, of course. Wide brim hat, pristine gardening gloves, snipping roses like she was editing reality one petal at a time. "Lovely day, Jack," she said without smiling. I held up the citation. "You find me for box." She didn't blink. "It's about standards." Standards. That word hung in the air like a bad smell. She started talking about property values, curb appeal, community image, the whole HOA Greatest Hits album. I told her it had been 6 minutes. She shrugged. Rules don't come with grace periods. That's when I realized something. This wasn't about cardboard. This was about power. Tiny, suburban, weaponized power. The kind that hides behind bylaws and pastel stationery. And when she casually mentioned putting a lien on my house if I didn't pay something, inside me snapped. Not loudly, quietly, like a bridge, cable giving way somewhere deep in the structure. I walked home smiling. Not because I was happy, because I had just decided to become deeply, legally inconvenient. That night, I cracked open the HOA rulebook. 400 pages of soul-sucking legal oatmeal. Fence heights, approved beige tones, acceptable mailbox curvature. The kind of reading that makes you question the concept of civilization. And buried deep in that nightmare, I found it. A loophole. Emergency sanitation services. Biohazard cleanup vehicles. Fully exempt from aesthetic violations. I leaned back in my chair and just stared at the ceiling. Barbara thought a cardboard box was messy. She had no idea what messy looked like. The next morning, I hired a company whose website looked like it was designed by a horror movie intern. Black background, neon green font, tagline. No job too gross. No stench too strong. The owner, Sully, sounded like he gargled gravel for breakfast. "You got a body or a basement?" he asked. "Worse," I said. "An HOA." He didn't laugh right away. Then he let out this slow, dangerous chuckle. "I'm listening." By 7 a.m. the next morning, the earth itself seemed to vibrate before the truck even came into view. It rounded the corner like a war crime on wheels, rust-streaked, gangrene, with a giant graphic of a radioactive rat devouring a house. The words "extreme biohazard removal" screamed across the side like a metal album cover. And because the cul-de-sac curved just right when it parked in front of my house, the back of that beast pointed directly at Barbara's breakfast window. I stepped outside with coffee in hand like I was watching a sunrise. Sully hopped out. Big guy, beard like a national forest. He looked at Barbara's house, then at me, and grinned like we were about to rob a bank. "Nice neighborhood," he said. "Would be a shame if it had contamination," I replied. Within minutes, The caution tape went up. Men in white hazmat suits wandered around carrying ominous black barrels. One guy sprayed something into the air just to make it look extra cinematic. At 7:10 sharp, Barbara opened her blinds. I didn't need binoculars to feel the psychic scream that followed. Her door flew open. She stormed down the driveway in a pink bathrobe, fury radiating off her like heat waves off asphalt. "What is that?" she shrieked. Sully didn't even stand up. "Ma'am, please stay back." Level 4 situation. She looked like someone had unplugged her soul. Then she saw me standing there, sipping coffee behind the caution tape. "Jack, what is happening?" I put on my most tragic face. "You were right, Barbara. The mess, it goes deeper than we thought." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. "It was a box," she screamed. "That's how it starts," I whispered solemnly. She threatened police. I handed her a printed copy of the loophole. Watching her read, it was like watching someone realize gravity exists. And that's when I saw it. Not anger, not even hate, fear. Because she knew. She understood she'd created the rules, and now she was trapped inside them. The cops came later. Officer Miller looked exhausted before he even stepped out of the cruiser. One glance at the rat truck, and I swear 10 years aged onto his face. "Is this a spy truck?" he asked me flatly. I placed a hand over my heart. "Officer, I'm simply preserving community health." He sighed, checked permits, measured street clearance, and finally turned to Barbara. "Ma'am, it's legal." I will never forget the sound she made. Somewhere between a tea kettle and a dying smoke alarm. And that's when the real show began. Because Sully understood theater. The next few days turned into performance art. Geiger counters, soil samples, dramatic head shaking. The neighborhood Facebook group exploded into conspiracy theories. Someone claimed it was toxic mold. Another suggested radiation. One lady said she saw a guy scrubbing my mailbox with a toothbrush and started Googling fallout shelters. But the twist, the moment everything shifted, happened on Wednesday. Barbara was showing her house to potential buyers. Perfect timing. She was smiling that realtor smile, tried to steer them inside when the husband looked past her shoulder and saw the truck. The tape. A hazmat guy emerging from the back, holding a black bag like it contained the apocalypse. Sully yelled, loud enough to echo off heaven. "Careful with that one. Asbestos and mold mix." The couple didn't even say goodbye. They just left. And that's when I saw it. Barbara standing alone in her driveway, staring at the monster she helped create. I felt a flicker of guilt. Just a flicker. Then it passed. By Friday, she walked over. Not marched. Walked. She looked smaller somehow, like someone had turned down her brightness. "Please," she said quietly, "make it stop." That word, please, carried more weight than the fine ever did. She canceled the citation, promised to loosen enforcement, even apologized, though it sounded like the words physically hurt her on the way out. And in that moment, something weird happened. I didn't feel victorious. I felt clear. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about power, especially the small, suburban kind. People think it belongs to whoever holds the rules. But rules are just mirrors. The second someone decides to reflect them back at you, everything changes. I called Sully, told him to pack it up. An hour later, the truck rolled away, leaving behind a dead rectangle of grass and the quietest cul-de-sac I'd ever heard. That night, I sat on my porch watching the sunset. No tape, no hazmat suits, just normal suburban silence. Barbara drove past slowly. Didn't wave, didn't glare, just stared straight ahead like looking at me might summon another biohazard unit from the underworld. And I realized something that stuck with me. The scariest people aren't the loud ones. Not the obvious villains. It's the ones who think they're righteous. The ones who believe they're protecting order. Because those are the people who will justify anything until they're forced to feel what it's like on the other side. My phone buzzed. Text from Sully. "If she acts up again, my cousin's got a portable toilet castle we can park on the property line." I laughed harder than I had all week. The war was over. The balance had shifted. Not because anyone won some grand battle, but because someone finally pushed back. Before going inside, I noticed a single dry leaf sitting on my welcome mat. Brown, harmless, technically debris. I picked it up, looked at it for a second. Then I dropped it right back where it was. Because sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's just knowing you could start the circus again and choosing not to. So now I'm curious. Where do you draw the line? When does following the rules turn into abusing them? And if someone pushes you first as payback justice, or just another kind of problem? I'd honestly love to hear what you think. Have you ever dealt with someone like that? A boss, a neighbor, an HOA dictator in gardening gloves? Did you walk away, or did you push back? Let me know your story.